I hope you're doing well. I'm so excited today to talk to you about strategic planning in action, designing sustainable education programs in CUI 730. So we're going to talk about strategic planning is not a document, it's a disciplined decision-making process. This session applies strategic planning directly to program design and evaluation. We're going to spend time today talking about why we apply strategic planning principles, how do we align that to our mission, to our vision and goals, why do we use data with stakeholder input, and how do we support sustainability improvement over time. Strategic planning defines where a program intends to go and how it will get there. It ensures intentional alignment and measurable outcomes. So if you'll look, you'll notice that with strategic planning, we're looking for long-term direction setting. There'll be alignment with goals and resources, evidence-informed decision, and then that continuous improvement. What many institutions, whether it's an organization, a school, a university, with strategic planning, and we previously talked about program design, you want to look very carefully to make sure that the two align and that you have the capacity to implement the programs. So strategic planning is going to be a critical piece to have done before you implement a program. Effective strategic planning begins with environmental analysis and flows into measurable goals and ongoing evaluation. So the core strategic planning principles would be the environmental scan, do we have a clear mission and vision, SMART goals, metrics and benchmarks, and then review and adjustment. Strategic priorities should cascade into program-level decisions. Misalignment between institutional strategy and program design will weaken sustainability. So from a strategy to program design, we're looking at the strategic plan for program outcomes that will determine curriculum design. Assessment, as we previously talked about, is critical in this whole design, and then the assessment cycle. So again, once you have your strategic plan, then you can move forward with the curriculum, with the assessment, and with the evaluation cycle. The mission anchors purpose, vision describes the future impact, and goals translate aspiration into measurable action. So with our mission, our vision, and our measurable goals, we know that the mission answers the question why we exist. Our vision is what we aspire to become, and the goals ultimately are what we accomplish. Programs must align with institutional strategy and community workforce demands to remain relevant and defensible. So with the alignment, obviously, if it's a new program you're implementing at your institution, you need to survey your stakeholders. We need to look at market research. You want to make sure that what you are implementing aligns to the strategic plan. So before you move forward with whatever you're planning, you want to make sure you look at your institutional priorities, your workforce data. Is this a marketable program? Is this something the workforce demands? Often we have to look at accreditation standards. Will we be able to meet those standards? And then the student demographics. If we offer something that's not aligned to our strategic plan, then that program is probably going to flop, and we would have wasted unnecessary time, effort, and money on something. So that's why the strategic plan and the alignment to program design are so closely related. Strategic leaders, they will use analytics to identify trends and guide program redesign. Data must drive our decisions, not sit in reports. So again, data-informed strategic decisions are very important. If we want to look at enrollment trends, are we going up? Are we going down? What is the data saying? With persistence and completion data, that's usually tied very strongly in a strategic plan. If your enrollment is going backwards, persistence and completion rates, are not in where we want them to be, then we have to take a deep dive to figure out why we're getting this type of data. Something in our program is not working. We've talked at length in the past about equity metrics, and also cost analysis will usually drive what we can do at an institution, within an organization, or within K-12. If what we're doing is not working, we're not going to spend money on something that's not effective. So cost analysis is a clear part of strategic planning. Strategic planning is very collaborative. Stakeholder insight strengthens relevance and sustainability. So whenever you implement your strategic plan, you're going to want to talk to the teachers, to the faculty, to the students, to the employers, any advisory boards, any community partners, anyone that has a hand in the organization, whether it's a K-12 school or an institution of higher learning. You want to make sure that you involve all stakeholders in this engagement process. If you're trying to update your strategic plan, their voice does matter. Sustainability requires planning beyond the launch. Leaders must assess long-term viability and impact. And so here you see the sustainability framework, where we're looking at the measurable outcomes and the financial viability, the enrollment pipeline, faculty capacity, and partnerships. And this is ongoing. So while you're planning this awesome strategic plan, you're going to have to keep in mind that programs you bring forward, these are the pieces for sustainability. If we're not enrolling students in the pipeline, then we may need to tweak the program or sunset the program. But you need to have full faculty capacity and partnerships in place before you begin a new program. And again, that's where strategic planning will help you greatly. Strategic planning is iterative. Continuous improvement ensures programs remain responsive and aligned to the mission. So we're going to plan, we're going to implement, we're going to measure, we're going to adjust, and we're going to repeat. That is that continuous improvement cycle. We also will want to encourage participants to apply these principles to a program they lead or influence. Strategic planning must inform real decisions. So you have to ask yourself these questions. Is the mission clear? Are the goals measurable? What data informs decisions? And is sustainability planned? These are 4 important areas that you have to ask yourself when you're doing and going through strategic planning process, and while you're trying to implement new programs. You can't do those things if you can't answer these questions. So that's why they're so important. Just some final thoughts. Without strategy, we know programs will drift. With strategies, programs will lead. So if you want to move your institution, your organization, your K-12 school in the right direction, having a strong strategic plan will obviously make great improvements. Without the strategy, remember, programs drift, they fall apart. With the strategy, programs are going to increase and improve. So we will talk more when we meet together face to face. I do have some scenarios that we'll work through and go through a strategic planning activity when I'm able to meet with you face to face. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you soon.